What is going on, everybody? It is I, Antonius DaGamer, here with my co-host Mykale Smith, here for another episode of the Press Start Select podcast. Unfortunately, Super SSS Rank couldn't be with us this evening. He had a lot of adult responsibilities to attend to, and anyone over the age of 25 knows very well what that could be. It can mean a lot of things, but all applicable things. So me and Mykale Smith will be holding it down in his absence. So, Tim, we're just going to kind of get right into it. You brought up a really good topic in the group chat. So we're going to kind of start off our podcast, this episode, with that. Tell me more about the multiverse approach that some of these entertainment companies are taking.
It's messy. It's very, very messy, man. Like I get it in terms of story. The multiverse is a very complex topic. But then my thing about it is if you don't really have a proper roadmap on how you want to introduce these things, it just get like I said, it just gets messy. And I feel like that's where we are with multiple companies. On the Marvel side, the Warner Brothers side, even the video game universes of things, the multiverse is just getting messy. And it kind of just makes me feel like, all right, you've invested so much into this next level of storytelling, but where do we go from here?
Right.
What's going to stick? What's going to not? Or are we just going to keep recycling and recycling until there's nothing left?
Do you feel like there's been any instances, especially like in I guess in either, right? But especially in like the video game aspect where the multiverse approach has worked? Where you're like, okay, I could see that there might have been some promise here and things just kind of fell apart, or it was a successful concept or idea that you liked and you would have wanted to see further explored?
To be honest, no. No.
Okay.
No. Like I said, I like the multiverse concept of it. I feel like there was actually a very good childhood movie that I saw. You remember the movie with Jet Li called The One?
Of course.
That was a great multiverse movie because like it was something that they explored, but you could tell like they're sticking to one particular path where, all right, this is where we could end things. Like I remember when Jason Stratham said, with the multiverse, there's multiple versions of you, but then one universe you might be a man, you might be a woman. In the other universe, your sexual orientation might be different. There's just so many different possibilities and different versions of you. But I just kind of feel as if now it's being used as a way to like, yes, keep these brands going. But then it has come to like my attention of like, all right, some of these franchises really do need to come to an end. And it's just because like they've stretched the story out for so long that it's just like you could tell the weight of where do we go from here is becoming too much. And then now we are seeing the story suffers a lot in terms of gameplay choices, roster choices, just overall where does this story go?
Okay, because like for example, like I think obviously the two biggest red flags, in terms of multiverse gone wrong, would be the latest Suicide Squad game as well as Mortal Kombat 1, where it's like we're doing all these things. It just seems like for the sake of doing it, there is no greater purpose here other than like a get out of jail free card when something goes left story wise, and it's just like especially given coming off the back of when you have the multiverse kind of done right, quote unquote, like you said, like The One is an example. I'd say an even more recent example was Everything Everywhere All at Once, where like it explores the multiverse in that movie, but it's done in a way where it's not like, oh, it's a get out of jail free card. It's like, here is this approach to, hey, if Tim went left at 21 instead of right at age 21, here's how his life might have differed, but the consequences are still there. It doesn't change the fact of what's happening currently. I feel like with video games, especially when it comes to comic book properties, there hasn't been anything where it's like you're not using it as a device for greater storytelling. It's just kind of like you said, it's just like we're either spinning our wheels or it's a get out of jail free card in case things go left. And it just seems like it's not something that's going away, right? It's like it's the meta for right now. It's going to be there. And I guess like my overall question, like, is there any way in which, is there an approach that you'd want to see? At least let's start with video games that you think would be like, okay, here's a healthy way that we could approach it. Like I think, for example, like Pokemon is a a property that could probably benefit from a multiverse at this point, to be honest with you.
I mean, to be honest, a lot of people don't realize they've explored the multiverse from the first generation.
Mm,
Because you realize, okay, well, yeah, first they have the anime universe, they have the manga universe, and sometimes they had like short books where that's a separate universe as well. But
mm-hmm,
then now with the game universe, you realize red and blue is different from the yellow universe.
mm,
Because, like, for example, you remember at the end of Gold and Silver or Hard Gold and Soul Silver, you fight Red on Mount Silver. But then look at
mm-hmm.
the team that he has. That's his team based on the yellow universe.
Okay.
Because in the
Mm,
red and blue universe, Pikachu is not his main Pokemon. His starter Pokemon is Venusaur. But
mm-hmm,
then also within the same red and blue universe, there's also some alterations. Like, since his name is Red, there's in some universes he chose Charizard.
mm-hmm.
So like they've been introducing the fact that yes, the multiverse exists. And even in terms of when you played Oraz, when you found out about the meteorite and the Delta episode, remember there was a part where they said, hey, like, let's try this method. We could send it to somewhere else. And then remember a particular character is like, but what if you send that to another universe that's like ours and you put them in danger?
Okay.
So yes, Pokemon has dove into the multiverse and then they've kept it very, I would say, clean as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the simple fact that you know that it exists. And then what I like about their multiverse topics is like you could tell which universe it is by the subtle hints. Because even technically, Mega Evolution, where Mega Evolution exists, that's a different universe. That is
Oh,
technically a
yeah.
different, yeah.
I didn't know that.
That is technically a different universe.
Mm,
And that was the part where they literally solidified, like, yeah, we've been doing the multiverse for a while, but we just didn't really want to say it like that. But then,
mm,
yes, like, there's multiple types. And even like on Black and White, where you pick one dragon over the other and things of that nature. So there's different parts, man. But then, like I said, it's like they were just subtle hints. But I just kind of feel like now, when you have too many overlapping pieces, you get a situation like Mortal Kombat. Because I felt like the ending was too much. Because first of all, Mortal Kombat, I feel like it's really struggling because they got too deep into the microtransactions. Because you remember back in, I would say, the PS3 era, our biggest gripe was how many costumes they about to sell us. But then
yeah.
now, you went from whole costume to costume pieces. Oh, you got to do this event to get these boots. Oh, but if you want the matching set, you got to grind out for the whole week for
Mm-hmm.
this particular event. And then, but if you want them in all 12 colors, you have to do this and that. And it kind of felt like that's where their focus was. It's like,
Okay.
like, yes, we have these mix and match colors, but for these different characters that are hybrid forms of multiple characters, but yeah, you got to grind out till your fingers bleed for all of these. And I just kind of felt like, yeah.
Would it have been okay if that led to something? Like, let's say that you got the costume and the costume unlocked some type of like sub story of how, I don't know, Titan Ermac got this costume set and rose to power, or is it more so because it's this blatant microtransaction fueled?
It would have been cool to have some story elements to it.
Mm,
But it just, like I said, is just, they're just focused about what is the quicker money to the product.
okay.
And like, like I said, bro, selling fatalities, selling these holiday stages for these outrageous prices. And it's just multiverse madness, man. It
Mm,
really is. And, even on the Marvel side, you develop so much into this separate universe because I get it, because you've been trying to fix X-Men and Fantastic Four for years.
mm-hmm.
But then now it's kind of like, due to the limbo of the series, because, a lot of the future properties didn't do so well, it's kind of like, well, how is this particular point of the saga supposed to end? And it kind of goes back to, what we said, like it's the end game burnout. We kind of saw it, with Bleach at a certain point. It was like they developed so much into Aizen. That's why all these Bleach fillers just did not do so well.
Mm, okay.
Hmm.
I'd say, I guess, to kind of like sum up the topic, is there any way, or is there anything like they could do if a new project was to come out that was like, oh, we're doing pick an IP, like a multiverse? Is there any way that you'd be interested from a story element?
Actually, I will pick an existing one. Super. I did like Super in the beginning because I did feel like, all right, well, you could tell this is definitely,
Oh, Dragon Ball Super.
yeah, a
Mm,
multiverse aspect. Like, yes, there's similar events to Dragon Ball Z, but then you realize the subtle hints that this is different because I realized in the Super's universe, Pan is older than Bulla. But then
mm.
in the Z universe, it was Bulla before Pan. So I was like, oh, now I see. But then it's just, once again, it's like, all right, you gave, like, I feel like the pinnacle of Super for me was when they made Broly canon in this form of story. Like, you
Hmm.
introduced him into the main story, and it stuck so well, and it had so many nostalgia elements from the Z universe that worked out so well. But then after, the tournament is just like, well, bro, what are we doing? Because
Hmm.
like even like bringing Frieza back, that was a bit of a stretch for me. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
battle
it
the
was
battle.
huge retcons of like, oh, you can only bring somebody back that's only been dead for a year with the Dragon Balls. Like, well, Frieza's been dead for a decade, and they
Over a
still revive.
decade.
Yeah, and they still revive him with the Earth's Dragon Balls. Like, wait, what? Since when?
Yeah, and it was just like, and then even after watching the Majin Buu fight, like, why was Frieza by himself attached to a tree? Where is everybody else?
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And it's like, so it's just like how you just said, bro. It's a bunch of retcons, and that's
Mm,
where the multiverse, where I say it gets messy, because now there's so much source material from your original universe that you have to remember that you're just kind of just stepping on toes. It's like, no,
mm.
but bro, you definitely said, oh no, we ain't said that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It. I guess you're right because I think there's some ways in which like Dragon Ball, we've all kind of slowly come to terms with like, okay, this can be its own thing, right? Like I think like you said, one of the subtle things in Dragon Ball Super is like when they decided to give Future Trunks blue hair. It's like, bro, his hair has always been purple. Like even when they try to do the whole flashback of him being blue, it's like his hair has always been purple. I don't care that Toriyama wanted to change it back to blue. It's like that's how it's been. So I'm like, so this is a different Trunks. It
Mm-hmm.
can't be like this is not the same Dragon Ball Z Trunks because it's just been purple. Like
Mm-hmm.
this whole retcon of like, no, his hair just turns blue as he gets older. It's like, how old does he have to be at this point? Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, not quite. And then it's like, is Tapion's sword canon or is it not? Like, where did he get this sword from?
Yes.
Who knows? So like this whole episode of Bardock being blessed into the past, is this a different Bardock? Because you're saying he's the original Super Saiyan who fought Frieza's ancestor, but how can that be? Like it's a lot of things where, like you said, I think kind of similar to Pokemon, like Dragon Ball has subtly worked into like, yeah, there's this multiverse. In some version of this, Dragon Ball GT is canon. Not canon to the main storyline, but it is canon somewhere. It's like, sure, sure, fine. I think it, I guess to move on, it's like, I think it's like, it is kind of scary where typically a multiverse would be to introduce an approach to a character that we hadn't seen before or approach to a story I hadn't seen before. Where it's like, I think, like you said, it's like, it's starting to just be used as like, well, we don't know what else to do. And we don't want to do anything that we may have to walk back later. So it's just a multiverse. So if we make, if we bring back Robert Downey Jr. again as Iron Man, it's like, well, it doesn't matter because it's Robert Downey Jr. from Earth 81111 who, like never snaps his fingers. It's like, bro, then that takes away everything that made Endgame Endgame. It's like you're
Yeah.
taking away the payoff for some of these narratives when nothing matters, when nothing holds weight because it's just a part of one big infinite puzzle piece. So I'm with you. But to move things along as far as expanding a universe and expanding an IP, we've spoken multiple times in terms of gaming in regards to Bleach, the anime, and how
Mm-hmm.
Bleach, out of the big three, seemed to have been suffering the most when it came to, like you said so many pods ago, the properties that keeps the franchise alive. Right? For Bleach, we had a couple of mobile games and new artwork that would drop. And the Thousand Year Blood War arc really was the thing that kind of breathed new life into Bleach.
Mm-hmm.
And now we got the announcement of a game, and not a any game, a console game for Bleach. It was announced at Anime Expo. Trailer dropped and everything. They're working with the author. Kubo to like make this game happen. It's confirmed that it's covering up to the Arrancar arc where they steal Aizen for the first game. What do you think? How do you feel about that game?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed
Mm,
watching it. I feel like, Bleach has been missing from the video game scene on this level for a while.
mm-hmm,
And, it really makes sense, man, because they know, all right, this particular, part with the Quincy's and stuff like that is going to come to a real big grand conclusion. And they know the people going to want to get their hands on something more. It's just that overall, like, now I want to play Bleach. I want to play something that is available. So this just aligns up very, very well. It really does. And
mm-hmm.
it was a very, very nice surprise. Um, where they left off, I'm a bit about it.
What do you mean?
So you said there is leading up to Waco Mundo, right? Where it's like where they seal Eisen, or when they just get
Yeah,
to Waco
well,
Mundo.
no, where they steal Aizen. So the three confirmed story arcs they're covering for the game is Ichigo's birth of his powers, the rescue Rukia arc, and then the full Arrancar arc from going to Hekomundo to defeating Aizen. That's going to be
Thank
the
you,
first game's content.
thank you. That is
Okay.
a great point, man. I feel like that is very great because like all right, when you look at it, it's similar to how when most Dragon Ball Z games come out, they go from the Saiyan Saga to the Buu Saga, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that with Bleach, that is the standard, bro. Because when you look at all the other stuff, bro, like all that stuff is filler. All that stuff was filler that adds nothing to the story.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I do feel like, having that particular focus, it's good. Especially, when the Soul Society arc comes along, that's basically like the tuning exams of Bleach. So you're going to get a lot of like variety of like captains, lieutenants, third and fourth seats. But you already know who the main one's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the next level of variety is, of course, the Iranka arc because it's like, yes, you're going to get the Espada. You're going to get maybe one or two of their lieutenants, just because.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, yes, especially when you got characters like Uryu, Chad, Renji, Rukia, they fought some very pinnacle people on that side.
Yeah.
Now, being an arena fighter, I'm just concerned, like, oh, all right, well, how is this roster going to look?
That was gonna be my follow up question. Like, do you feel like, because like what can they do for an initial roster, right? Like you have to, even if you were to say like, okay, I want to do the quote unquote bare minimum of the roster, everything you just listed, I'm already in my mind thinking 25, 30 characters out the
Yeah,
gate. It's
yeah.
13 head captains. Ichigo squad of 4. They've already confirmed what's his name? Urahara. They've confirmed Yorichi. I'm like, bro, like, and that's without Aizen, without, like you said, without the Iran car and the Espada. I mean, you're probably not gonna put all of the Espada in there, but even if you put 8 in there,
Uh, Actually, it depends. It depends. Like already know Ukiura, Grimjow,
mm-hmm,
Holly Bell, Stark, Berrigan. Like you already know, like especially like them real big climatic battles,
yeah,
they're going to be in there. Now, the guy who turned into a pumpkin and the one who took the face of Rukia's old friend.
they might have to put them in the game, bro.
Yeah,
Those are, like you said, those are pretty significant fights.
and of course Noritora, like, cause that fight with him and Kenpachi, like, of course,
Mm-hmm.
like it. Yeah, it's like, yeah, bro. I would say probably max 35 characters.
Out
30,
the gate for a first game. That's
35, yeah, bro. I mean, you're gonna have to put some Tekken elbow grease into that. You're gonna have to give us like 35.
yeah. That's, I guess in terms of like as we're watching the trailer, like they've already kind of confirmed some of the game modes as far as like there's going to be in-game transformations. Of course, some
Mm.
characters will release their Shikai, some characters will release their Bankai. I'm sure that we'll get at least 3 different Ichigo because they're going to have obviously the Ichigo that apply to that time, so to
Yeah.
speak. Um,
Yeah, 3 Ichigos. I think that's fair because you got the big Buster Cloud Sword Ichigo.
mhm,
And then, of course, you got the slimmer one where it was like a sleeker look. When
mhm.
he went to the Soul Society, I feel like that then with the Soul Society one, they could just give him a Bankai transformation,
Yeah,
technically.
for sure.
And then, the Arankar arc. like, well, it's kind of more of an aesthetic, I would say, because that's when the mask got more markings.
Yeah. But I
But
feel like that one they would have to make like a Bankai base roster Ichigo for that. Because like you
yeah,
said, his transformation would be the mask. Like it would have to be the
and
mask
then
at that point.
maybe whatever awakening, probably the Vasta. Oh, actually, no, bro. You need four Ichigos because you're gonna need the final.
Oh, the final Getsuga. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you would need like four Ichigos, bro.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I was saying
Yeah.
the third one, the awakening could probably be the Vasta Lorde mode, and
Hmm.
then it's like yeah that, but then that last one with the longer hair, and then it was like attached to his hilt, and
Yeah.
it's like oh yeah, the bro, you're gonna need like four Ichigos.
Yeah.
Gee,
I mean, I know, Jory had a different opinion in the chat, but I mean, for me, I don't have an issue with it being an arena fighter personally. Like, I think arena fighters with anime properties have gotten a really bad name because they're
mm,
usually used as a cop out to be lazy. To be fair, right? Like,
yes,
we've seen them be very, very like lackluster. The Jujutsu Kaisen game being a perfect example. Like, you guys just literally slap these characters together with bare bones mechanics. It was like, oh, a Jujutsu Kaisen fighting game. So it's like, is there, given I think it's Tamsoft, I believe they said that's developing it, who has been known and proven to make solid, competent arena fighters.
hmm
Do you have any like hesitation about it being an arena fighter? Does it make sense for a Bleach property?
no, because all right, it's going to be a fighter, it's going to be an arena fighter. I do feel like making it an arena style opens up for different levels of combat because I see they have sky battles or
Mm-hmm.
like parts where you could just elevate and stuff like that. I do like that because I think the last best Bleach games I think it was like Heat the Soul.
Heat the Soul on the PSP
Those were
years
great
ago.
games, but
Mm-hmm.
those were more like level across the screen fighting
Mm-hmm.
games like Budokai style. Excuse me. So I don't have any reserves that being an arena fighter. I do feel like that opens up more opportunities for because remember in Bleach they also use magic.
Yeah, there's a lot of long range abilities in that game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like so like everybody's kind of like a mid to like Zona type of character, so to speak. Um, so I mean, I look for it. I'll give it a chance, bro, because I do feel like they're gonna try to be banking off a lot on this. So because
Mm-hmm.
this is the first time Bleach game has been out for a while.
I think it's the first console game in 13 years. From what I heard, like a
Yeah.
YouTuber say, like it's the first console Bleach game in 13 years that we've had. Everything else has been mobile games.
Yeah, I mean, you already know which DLC around the corner.
What? Which you think is gonna be? It won't be Thousand Year Blood War arc, bro. That's a perfect lineup for a sequel.
Sequel or DLC, depending. I
I
mean,
think the
I
deals.
would bank more on a sequel
Yeah,
due to there was a lot of stuff that occurred in that game because it's kind of like, and it would also be better because at least you'll get updated forms of characters without rehashing all those other old versions, you know?
yeah. To me personally, I think the DLC for this first game should just be the movie characters. To be honest with you, like I was saying in the chat, I think
Or
pulling in
what about the full bring arc since that technically is not filler?
that that could be a DLC for this game. I just think with the Fullbring arc, it's so wonky because technically it's a time skip, but it's not quite the full time skip of the Thousand Year Blood War arc. So I'm like, the Fullbring arc should maybe be the intro for the second game, as
Mm,
opposed to because, like you said, at that point, you got to do at least a new costume for Kenpachi. You got to do a new costume for Hitsugaya. Like
actually,
these
you're
characters have
right.
different.
You're
Yeah, you
right.
have to update
Yeah.
their looks. So rather than go, make a whole new model for a character, it's like save that for the second game. Give us, like I said, the Hitsugaya's best friend that also used the ice dragon from the movies, the guy that was trying to escape hell, that from the fourth movie. Like, just give us those villain characters, give us those like hero characters from the movies, and just call it a day. Like the Bleach movies overall have been regarded as like pretty good when it comes to anime movies. Like they're not like amazing,
Yeah.
but they're solid. Like they're better than Naruto movies for sure. And I like I'd say like that would be a good well to pull from, at least for the DLC for this game. And I'm sure, like you said, a game that's going to need at least 35 characters. Let's be real, we might get 30. So there's going to be characters that they're going to have to make DLC regardless to put in the game because there's just how do you get again 13 captains, at least 8 Espada, Aizen, this character, like 4 Ichigos is like that's a lot of characters to put in one game.
Mhm.
So, um, how does this make you feel in terms of like just the revival of Bleach, like Bleach TYP? Do you think this is the proper rollout to kind of begin again in that content for that for this franchise?
I think it's good, man. I really do. Um, yeah, it really is, man. Because like I really felt that Bleach was abandoned. Like after like
Bro, for
like the
real,
original
for
anime,
real.
it was like, bro, like so the full bring arc. That's just it.
Y'all going out with this?
It's like, and then when you're reading like the manga, it's like, bro, Grimjow comes back, all this other stuff happens, and it's just like, nah, bro, there's no way we just about to go out like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy that they're doing the honest work. I'm very, very happy about that. I really
Okay.
am.
Okay. I mean, I kind of share the same sentiments. I know, like, people are looking for the discourse with us on the podcast. I'm like, I'm in agreement. I think that Bleach was kind of done dirty out of the original big three. I don't think it got the at least a send off that it needed when it
Hmm.
came to some of the open threads. And it's just like, bro, it's yes, I get it. It was probably the least popular between Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't good. Like it's
Hmm.
not one of those things where it's like, bro, we're not talking about, and respectfully, we're not talking about like a fairy tale or like a Seven Deadly Sins where like it has a very niche audience. Like Bleach was extremely popular. Those characters, people still love those character designs to this day, right? Like Kenpachi is like an archetype in shonen now of like when you want to show power, this is how you introduce a character. Like this, he's like the anime version of the Hulk, basically. Right. So
Yeah.
like I think Bleach trailblazed a lot of things. People have said it all the time. Jujutsu Kaisen is heavily inspired, whether they want to admit it or not, from Bleach. It's obvious. You could
Hmm.
even argue Demon Slayer was heavily inspired from Bleach. Like just
Hmm.
the whole concept of swords having different techniques. So
Oh yeah, yeah, and the fact that you're fighting the night at night a lot.
yes. Yep. Night creatures. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That someone see our ghosts or spooks or goblins. It's like, I wonder where you drew inspiration from that. Uh, but to get into a bigger conversation, I saw a tweet the other day of, some of the bigger anime content creators making the point of are we back to that 2000s era of anime games where we're getting anime games, not just the usual yearly Dragon Ball Z game, although obviously we're getting a Dragon Ball Z game this year, but just various anime properties. I mean, we're getting a Hunter x Hunter game for out of all things, right? We are getting a Dragon Ball game. We're getting a Bleach game announced. Both Naruto games have new seasons coming. Like, do you feel like we're in a proper anime renaissance era, or how do you feel about that?
Um, I would say mostly when it comes to like, especially for Naruto and Bleach, yes.
Mm,
I feel like certain things, yeah, like a game is okay, but like when you consider like a full-fledged console game, it's like the resources have to be there, bro. It really does. Like,
mm,
don't just do this just because, thinking that you're just gonna make money off the IP, because you don't want to leave a sour taste in people's mouths. When you're really starting this type of material, you have to really think this thing through. Well, how
mm.
far do you really want to take this?
That's fair. So, like, okay, for example, like I have like the latest character clip of the Hunter x Hunter gameplay in the background, and to be honest, it's Crollo, and this has probably been the most solid I've seen the game look so far out of all the characters they've released. Like with
Hmm.
this game, now that it's getting the ArtSys stamp of approval, and the character models, to be fair, do look better as the game progresses. Is this a game that you feel like is getting the resources to justify a console release?
No,
Really? Still?
no.
What do you feel is lacking?
I just feel it's a bit campy to me. It really
Mm,
it feels a little bit campy to me. I just feel it's just really not hitting it for me, bro.
mm,
Because especially, all right, first of all, when you say anime game renaissance, I kind of feel like that's where Arc System Works has already dominated enough. I mean,
mm,
I wouldn't even say enough. They're still very, very much present in, because till this day, bro, people are still playing Blaze Blue.
mm,
The last one, Persona or for Arena, Ultimax Arena
mm.
got rollback netcode, so that's been revived. Undenied is doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the anime fighting game niche is going. People love it. People really love it. Now the anime is based on shows. That's a whole different market, and that's the part where I feel like there's a lot of hit and miss.
Okay. What would you say? I guess like, what do you feel like? I know you're saying like the Hunter x Hunter game you feel is a hit and miss, but like, what is it that I guess you feel like it's missing? Like, what's the thing that's like, okay,
Um,
this is not quite it.
it needs a lot more, I would say, because Arc System Works. They have a lot of good battle system depth.
Mm-hmm.
And because I tell people all the time, man, it's hard to explain, but Under Night has a very in-depth fighting system, and I kind of feel like when it comes to the anime shows,
Mm-hmm.
those games, it's just like the developer is not really thinking about that. I
Okay.
think they're considering more of the aesthetic, like they're trying to bank off more on the name versus
Okay.
the in-depth fighting mechanics. Like, for example, let's just look at this, new Sparkling Zero.
I was gonna say
Yes.
like that's been your big. I feel like that's been your biggest beef from what you told us of like
Yeah,
it's just
like
flash, 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 flash. It
because
does. It
I
looks
mean,
good, bro.
no, it does look good. The visual fidelity is there.
Mm,
I just kind of feel like the Tenkaichi style. I was a bit done with it. I really was.
mm.
I do like the in depth of the characters that they did. I liked the because some of the stuff, especially what they did with Trunks, I would have loved for Trunks to have that in Super, but I kind of just felt like, all right, in terms of what fighting games stand for now, in terms of the esports scenes, how does that fit into this?
But do you feel like anime games should be aspiring for the esports scene? Like, do you
But
think
that's
that that should be
but
the goal
that's
every time?
not necessarily, but that's what determines. Because remember, bro, at the end of the day, they're thinking about the longevity and the money, and
Mm,
esports is the only thing that is connected to that.
mm.
So
Because
it's kind of like, how does that fit into this? And that's where I felt like Fighter Z was perfect because even some of these characters that I'm looking at now, like Deborah would have been great. Like even especially after what they did with Master Roshi, I was even considered like, yeah, bro, like let's see what you could do with Yajirobe of all people.
mm,
It's just the creativity was there.
mm,
Like, yes, I get it. Like, people miss the giant battles and things of that nature. There's ways to do it. Because, like, even what they did with Baby, when he, like, that's just, like, his finisher, I felt like, all right, you know what, bro? I'm not even mad at that.
mm.
I'm not
Him
even
turning
mad
into
at
a
that.
giant monkey that like nukes the character.
It's like
Yeah.
I was like, bro, I wasn't even mad at that. So I was like, bro,
Mm,
there's just ways to do it, man. And I just and especially this style, I hate it because you're just doing all these separate versions of different characters, and it's just like, okay, so you mean to tell me you can do this? Because it's basically, yeah, they take the model and then they switch it up a bit. But then my thing about it is, why don't you just direct those resources to something that is already built for longevity?
well, okay. I'll give a little bit of pushback with that.
Go ahead.
I think my thing of like why I think Sparking Zero is slowly winning me over in that regard is I do think that there is a space for the anime quote unquote party fighter, right? So when I say party fighters, like you look at Super Smash Brothers, for example. Yeah,
Okay.
competition with Super Smash Brothers, granted, but it's not built with that in mind, right? It's built with like it could be you, me, Jory, a friend of ours, your nephew, right? Your sister, my sister, like technically anyone should be able to pick up and play these games at a basic level. Whereas I think Fighters, for all its technical glitz and glamour, and it does have Flash, don't get me wrong, I do think that it appeals more to a niche audience that, to your point, I don't think gets fed enough when it comes to serious anime fighters. However, I think that there should be both, right? I think Sparking Zero, like if I want a Dragon Ball simulator, I like this better than Xenoverse. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of like
Yeah.
game mechanics,
Yeah.
because you want to talk about selling transformations. My goodness. Here's Gohan. Here's Gohan from Dragon Ball Superhero. Here's Gohan Ultimate. Here's Gohan with Beast. It's like, fam, this is 4 characters with the same character model that you're selling to me as DLC. What? Like, so that I feel like with Sparking Zero, I'm like, I think it's bringing back that, like, here's a party fighter, to be fair, right? This is not Evo friendly at all, but it's giving you enough variety. We're giving the characters enough attention to detail for once. It's not the same, like you said in the chat, super explosion wave for the 45th time on the 10th character. Like, bro, every character that I've seen so far seems to be very unique in their moveset as far as special attacks. Like, it's not a lot of just using the same attack over and over and over again. So I'm like, in terms of a Dragon Ball Z party fighter, I'm not mad at it. We're getting the stage destruction that we've always wanted. We're getting the costumes that we've always asked for. It's like, bro, like, the attention to detail of, like, if you're using Goku from Namek, yeah, his hair is not as spiky and as detailed as it was when he transferred to the N of Z. It's like, it's more just, like, again, that Namek style transformation. I'm like, okay, what can how can I be mad at this? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can I be like, I don't like this because I can't play, I can't spend 6 hours in the lab learning how to crunch a touch of death with this character. I think there's room for both. I think the problem with fighters is that fighters should have opened a door that doesn't seem to have many other licensed anime IPs walking through.
Yeah.
We've said multiple times, where is One Piece fighters? Where is Naruto fighters? Like, there's enough room for both. If we can have, like, the party fighter aspect for these games, you can also have the hardcore enthusiasts who also happen to like anime have their own games as well. So that's kind of where my pushback is. Like, I think there is room for both, but to your point, we don't get enough fighters for anime properties. We really don't. We don't get enough games that have that, like, there's some serious combos here, which is why I was kind of surprised that you're like, yeah, I don't like the Hunter x Hunter game. I'm like, bro, it's basically Marvel vs. Capcom, but with Hunter x Hunter characters.
I mean, we'll see. Maybe because I'm more open for stuff to grow on me. Yes, I will look at it with an open mind. It's just like when I'm watching the development, I'm also like giving it a fresh start. But then as of now, like, it's still very whatever to me. Like, it's not really pushing me. Like, why do I need to buy this?
Okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I would agree that a lot of these games don't scream day one purchase. I will say that. Like, I'm on board with that.
Or in the adult world, 2 months, 2-month purchase.
You're like, some point during Golden Week Japan, there'll be a sale, and that's when I'll cop. It's like, man, that's a fair critique. That's a fair critique. I can't say too much about that. But to move the conversation off of anime fighters and to get into just the fighting game landscape, we got Evo coming up next week, bro. And one of the things that I dropped in the chat recently is that Evo 2024 signups have somehow even surpassed Evo 2023 signups, which had already set a record. Now, I'm going to bring up the Evo 2024 signups first to share. But based off what I had said in the group chat, where, like, here are a lot of these games, these big IPs year one that are coming. The first full release of Tekken 8 during its first year. The first full year of Street Fighter 6. The first full year of Mortal Kombat 1. How do you feel about the Evo registration numbers thus far?
Mortal Kombat was a very shocker for me, bro. That was a real shocker for me. And it kind of just was very sad to see. It really was. And it's like, I would at least thought they would at least been in the top 5. I was like, no? Wow.
The bottom 2 is insane.
I was like, bro, this game is tanking like that?
The bottom 2 is insane.
I mean,
bro.
I'm happy for Under Night because, like I said, man, I would definitely represent Under Night to the very end. It's just like that game really deserves its flowers. Like, of course, Tekken and Street Fighter, that's of course understandable. Guilty Gear Strive, I was surprised because I felt the momentum of that game was very, very off to me. Grand Blue Fantasy, of course, like another niche anime-ish fighter, so I understood that. You already know how I feel about Third Strike. It's a classic. Yeah. You love it. But I just kind of feel like, bro, there's so many other things you could have chose in that place.
Well, like you said last pod, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 will be replacing that spot very soon.
Bro.
Very soon.
That's a definite. That is an absolute definite. Like, because you already know what the announcement is. Oh, we're going to save one slot for a classic title.
And guess what title it is? Marvel versus, and you just see the trademark handshake. It's like, oh, well, of course. What else would it be?
Of course.
MVC2 is back with Robot Netcode. What else could you have possibly chosen?
Yeah. King of Fighters, I was like, oof. But I mean, to be honest, I've always felt like King of Fighters always had a very sharp decline. I mean, I guess maybe Fatal Fury is one of the most prized properties.
Do you feel like King of Fighters could possibly overtake? Because, like, for example, you're right. I think Guilty Gear Strive was a bit of a surprise, but I do think there is that like increasing number of like Arc Sys Works loyalists that want to see their original IPs do well, right? And to be fair, like Strive is like a well built game.
It
It's maybe not
is.
the best Guilty Gear, but it's a solid fighting game. So do you feel like even though like I know like Grand Blue's kind of in that ballpark, do you feel like Grand Blue could have been or can be replaced by this next King of Fighters that's coming out, or this King of
Yeah,
Fighters kind of like
actually, yes,
exists outside that?
it
Okay.
is. Because I even feel like with this Grand Blue, it's basically like, I mean, I wouldn't call it a re-release.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more updated version that they're going to probably add another probably strong season pass or whatever. But I don't see it lasting for too long.
Okay.
I don't see it lasting for too long. Um, like I said, I hope a lot of people, especially like since COVID is done, and especially with this new Under Night, built for the next gen consoles, I do hope that people really invest into this title, bro. I
Mm-hmm.
really hope people really see like what they built here. Like, bro, this is an anime fighter, another anime fighter with a lot of Bleach like elements in it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, bro, it surpassed Mortal Kombat 1. Like, I think even if people didn't know about the game, they're gonna be like, oh, what's this game that beat Mortal Kombat 1? What is this? I
Bro,
think
like,
Evo's gonna give it more visibility in that regards.
no, because honestly, man, I got to give it up to PlayStation, man. PlayStation has been doing good with these online tournaments, even from the ones that you could just do from straight from your system, man. When you look at these gameplay vids of Under Night, bro, this game deserves its flowers, bro.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very detailed game. The character designs are amazing, man, and when the combos are just like crazy. Like, to be honest, this game and Skullgirls, bro, I gotta give it to them, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially Skullgirls, bro. Like, especially that rocky development cycle that they had with just so
Yeah,
much,
the
bro.
internal things of like,
Like they have that No Man's Sky spirit, bro. They rode that out to the end, and then to be honest, what you thought was the end is not even the end. They still going,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and it's just like I'm very happy. I'm very happy for games such as that because they're also showcasing you that yes, the big three, whatever state that may be in, there's still something solid for you to play.
Yeah,
You just got to give it a chance.
yeah. My question about the big three, though, even though to be fair, the numbers aren't that far off in terms of discrepancy. Do you feel like we've said on this podcast multiple times that in our eyes, Tekken 8 kind of reigns supreme as like the number one of the big three?
Hmm.
Is it showing up second to Street Fighter 6 a surprise? Do you feel like it has a lot to do with Street Fighter 6 having been out a little bit longer? Like, what do you feel like was the
I would
thing that made
say
Street Fighter 6 number one?
it's multiple factors. The fact that it has been out longer,
Mm-hmm.
and to be honest, even further into their development cycle. Because like, bro, like I could tell you, man, the way that they planned it out, like, all right, of course we release all 4 DLC characters. Oh no, here's season 2 already, and the first character,
Is out. Is out.
bro. When I
Not
tell
coming
you,
soon. Out.
bro, when I tell you, people, the moment that they got hands on Bison, bro, you know how much people sat down and probably called out of work just to learn this character.
Mm,
Because the fun thing about these tournaments, bro, is it doesn't end with just Evo.
right.
Sony does tournaments from their system.
Right.
Oh yeah, log into this tournament, you'll win these prizes, you get new avatars and all this
Right.
other
If you have
stuff.
an Ethernet cable and you're hardwired, you can register. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
like that I said, man, like just because you may not be on the grand stage, but that doesn't mean you're not able to participate in something big. And then remember, there's all the small tournaments across the year.
Mm,
You got Frosty Faustins and you got all these other things, and then who's to say where they are in terms of their character. Well, actually, yes, they said Terry and I believe, yeah, those 2 characters come out before this year ends.
really?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Okay. Mm,
So it's like I said, man, the momentum is there.
mm-hmm.
Tekken is like, yeah, it's doing solid. It had a solid roster. The first character is already out. I feel like Lydia is going to be the surprise. Oh, playable now at the booth.
Mm, okay. almost like a shadow drop, or should be a shadow drop at this point, considering how long
Hmm.
ago she was announced.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. And
Okay.
then, probably might show the next trailer for the next character. And, if it's a particular somebody, just like, Jory,
We need a joy reaction video if it's a certain somebody. Like we need
yeah, yeah,
we need to give him space, like a little runway, so he can get his rant off. Because you know how he feels about who. Um, so out
bro.
of comparison, I'm gonna bring up now the 2023 Evo registrations, because I think that's a very interesting comparison when it comes to Mortal Kombat in particular, as far as where their game was placing at that time. And I think this was after Mortal Kombat 11 had been out for like 2 years at this point, if not three. Let me just bring that up real quick, because it makes for, I think, for a very like eye opening conversation about where things are with that game in particular. So here we have the 2023 version
Oh,
of
wow.
Evo, and you have Mortal Kombat 11 at the bottom, right? But I'm like, we're talking about a game that's significantly older,
Melty
right?
Blood,
So I'm like,
Melty Blood type, Lumina, Fighter Z, Ultimate Marvel. Um, okay. Well, I have heard that Mortal Kombat out of the big three has always been, I would say, like the outlier. Like you could tell, like Street Fighter and Tekken have always been the more hardcore rivals.
yeah.
Um,
And also easier to pick up, to be fair, right? We're talking about two T for teen fighters
mhm.
that you can buy versus an M rated fighter that, most parents aren't going to let Timmy, or Bobby or David just purchase, when you can pull someone
Yeah.
apart by the legs.
And then that Mortal Kombat. Yeah. To be honest, bro. Mortal Kombat 11 did not bother me as some of the other people I've seen online complain about.
Me either. We've had this talk before. I'm like, when people are like, oh, I hated it. I'm like, really? I thought it was
Like
very solid.
I did feel Shang Tsung was a very undeveloped DLC character.
Mm,
Because like you did the whole copycat thing just to renege,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah. He had a couple
It's,
of iconic moves. Basically, is like, well, here's the ninjas we didn't put in the game, so here you go. It's like, what?
but
Shang Tsung has
then
never been a mimic character. It's been
yeah,
like one
and
aspect of his abilities.
it's just like yeah, that was very weird, and you kind of felt like this alchemy version of Shang Tsung was kind of like the redemption of that. Because to be
Yes.
honest, alchemy Shang Tsung is pretty fire to me.
Yeah. I
So
mean, like,
I just kind of felt, yeah, like it's interesting numbers, man. It really is. And it's also very interesting to see another Arc System Works or French Bread type of title still in that same type of bracket area. Like Melty Blood and Under Night are two very solid anime fighters, but you could tell it's more on the under bottom tier of the list. And then look, Ultimate Marvel was the another classic title.
yeah. But I think as a casual consumer of fighting games, like I think from the outside looking in, I do think there's something to be said about the naming of IP, right? So I'm like, if I, again, without you giving me like the 411 on these games, I'm not gonna go down like my digital library and be like Melty Blood, I'm good. Or like when I see Under Night's version Celeste, I'm like, all that reminds me is the PTSD I have playing Blaze Blue, where there was 16 versions because every new game warranted 3 new characters. And I'm like, and I don't want to do that anymore.
They've gotten better.
They have gotten better. No,
They've
they have, but
they've gotten better because no, I'll admit, yeah, that was a very interesting, rough time. But bro, once you get that final version, bro,
it's everything you've ever wanted. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think as a casual, like I think they've started their redemption arc in terms of like, again, you see these games that they're putting out being placed in these spaces. But I think it's harder when, again, you have these younger audiences or people who are not as invested, being like, if I'm gonna go to the store and look for a sale, what's a Under Night? Like what's a Melty Blood? Like what is this? Even with Grand Blue, I'm like, Grand Blue, at least it clicks in my head like, oh, I know roughly what that is, you know?
yeah, I do feel like with some of the more niche anime fighters, they do need more stronger marketing. I feel
Mm,
like Skullgirls did better because Skullgirls also has a mobile version.
yeah. And goth
So
girls are always in. So any type of goth girl tie-in, you can't really go wrong with the goth girl aesthetic.
yeah, so yeah, like it's also talking like what's the marketing attached to it, bro.
Mm,
That's also another factor of it. But yeah,
okay.
man, that's very interesting. In terms of Evo, I'm just looking forward to the announcements, man. The
Hmm.
announcements, there's some good pinnacle moments in the fight scenes. I'm just and like because I really like to see like how far these players go in terms of combos and setups. Like sometimes certain people use characters I never even thought of. I was like, bro, you're using this character?
And then pull out the wildest thing you've ever seen in
I
your
was like,
life. Like,
it's like, what am I doing wrong?
yeah,
What
yeah.
am I doing wrong? And it's
Man.
just like it's always just very interesting to see, man. It really is. So I mean, I'm looking forward to it this year. I do feel like it's going to be another solid one, and hopefully there's some good surprises, man. Because to be honest, fighting games are still holding it down in
Yeah,
terms
they have
of.
such a stronghold on the market that you're right. I think if they could find a way, like I think I said this before, like if they could find a way to turn Evo into like a soft like fighting game E3, I think the stock could only go up from there. Like you said, the amount of announcements and reveals and the available now, like people would be actively tuned in. Like you said, like if they happen to reveal the release date of like the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection there, like that kind of raises the stock of like, well, I gotta tune into Evo to see what's going on outside of
Mhm.
just the matchups.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
yeah. So I want to kind of delve a little bit more into the bottom of the big three, right? Because it came up recently with the leaks and whatnot. Mortal Kombat 1, right? There's
Hmm.
been some leaks, or basically at this point, confirmation, because the same names keep coming up over and over and over again of what year two of Mortal Kombat 1 looks like. Now, we're not going to delve too much into the list of names, but there was two particular names, or one particular name that kept coming up that caused a bit of controversy on the internets in regards to their decision to possibly, potentially gender swap a classic Mortal Kombat character. And of course, everyone has their opinions, some healthy, most not, on this decision. So I wanted to know, like, how do you feel about them deciding to, make a he or she in regards to Liu Kang's take on the Mortal Kombat world?
It's interesting because that it made me want to look up the name Cyrax in general because, for example, House of the Dragon. Remember the main character's dragon's name is Cyrax, and that's a she dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me wanted to look up like, okay, where does this name? What is this name or origin from? Because maybe we're missing something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just like you just never really know. In terms of well, actually, I just looked it up. Yeah, Cyrax is a goddess of Valerian religion.
Mm.
Now, okay, but that's from that particular universe.
Yeah.
But then, all right. See, with
And,
me,
go ahead.
I don't have an issue with it. Because, like I said, this is Liu Kang's universe, so you might consider it almost like a multiverse standpoint. My thing about it is, all right, moving forward, if you're going to make a decision like this, how is it going to stick afterwards? Because yeah, you already know they're going to be planning a sequel. Well, how does this character fit later down the line? Like, what is the
Mm.
overall purpose of this character? Because that's what my thing is. You got to back it up with something. It has to be something that is solid. Like, for example, when I was watching the first Miles Morales movie when Doc Ock was a woman, I never
Mm-hmm.
knew that. I never
Mm-hmm.
knew. But then, of course, when you go back to the multiverse law, it's like, yes, in another version of youth, it will be a woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. So, okay, if you want to give us a female Cyrax, which I can probably tell who the template is going to look like, it's going to probably look like Master Raven. I
More than
like
likely.
something is telling me it's going to be a cyberized ninja, female ninja with dreads. I feel it coming. I feel it coming so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, give it to us. But then, what is that character going to play like? What is that character going to play like? Because first of all right, we got the cameo version, which is the classic cyborg version. How is this person going to play, and what is the real story of? Because it looks like all right, because it looks like from the leaks, we're getting the remaining Lin Kuei members.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, all right, is this aftermath story about, Bihan the dictator or whatever like that? So where do we go from this? Because yeah, in the main story, you technically killed Shang Tsung and
And
Quan
Quan
Chi.
Chi,
So it's
yeah,
like, okay, so they're dead. Um, General Shao, I forgot what happened to him.
he's not. I think he's like imprisoned. He nothing. He doesn't
Yeah.
die or anything like that. Like nothing happens to him. Like
Okay. So yeah,
critically, I would say.
so that happened, and of course, there's no Shinnok. So it's like, all right,
Yet.
so Onaga or a new villain from the story,
I
or
think they were hinting that it's going to be Titan Havoc that plays a big part in the aftermath storyline.
to be honest, bro, that Havoc was probably just like a mention of these chaos modes that they have.
No, so I'm like, I think that's why. Like, because remember, like at the end of the story mode, you're fighting all these mismatched characters of like, here's this character, but has this person's power. I think that's going to be an ongoing theme into the DLC of like, here's Havoc and his minions with katana with reptile powers or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, you may have a point. You may have a point.
Mm.
I mean, like I said, bro, to get back on topic, the gender swap is not an issue for me because it's
Hmm.
standard multiverse rules. But it's just like, all right, if you're going to do this, make it stick. Make
Yeah.
it stick. Like even for me, like they announced like a new particular cameo character was going to be Hirumi, which is Scorpion's wife. Like I was like, okay, I was looking forward to that, and you found out she's a from the cutscenes, it looked like she's a sword based character, but then it's like, oh, she might be just be the female Scorpion. It's like, bro, I don't want that because we
Hmm.
saw what the female Scorpion looked like at the end. It's like, don't tell me you just trying to give. I don't want templates. I don't want
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Like, I already did not like this cameo system because you're just basically giving me a 30% character with some character animations and calling it tag team style. Like, no,
Right.
no.
Yeah. It's an assist. It's an assist system basically.
A
Like Mortal Kombat
glorified,
is
a
just
glorified
assisted.
assist system. Because
Hmm.
I even thought about it, bro. Like when I was looking at these fatalities, I was like, bro, Mortal Kombat 11 gave us some beautiful fatalities, bro.
Very well thought out.
And I was
Very
like,
well thought out
and
fatalities.
like when I saw General Shao, like when he did the little spinning windmill, I was like, bro, this looks so campy.
Hmm.
What is this?
Which, to be fair, is part of the brand to a certain degree. To be fair, right? Like, there's always been campiness in every Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like certain things were toned down just because of the whole esports system. But then I was trying to ask myself, but why though? Because you've already had three past titles that have worked. You had Mortal Kombat 9, 10, and 11 in the esports scenes. So why does toning back some of the fighting mechanics? Why are you doing that now? Like, why does everything has to be so fast, fast, fast?
Well, there is that conspiracy theory that Mortal Kombat 1 was actually rushed. There's been a lot of examples of like, remember how in Mortal Kombat 11, even the intros were a lot more intricate of like Sub Zero would say something to Scorpion, and then Scorpion would say something back, and Sub Zero would answer. In this game, it's like it's two talking heads as the stage is loading, and they both say one thing to each other, and the game starts. Like you said, it's the emphasis is on speed. Just go, 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 go. There's no real like depth to it that we're used to from these
Yeah,
current gen MK.
and I don't like that. I don't
Mm.
like that. And I kind of feel like, them cutting corners is also a part of, the series decline, man. Well, first of all, because they don't done enough reboots, bro.
But it's not a serious. So okay. I'll address the topic first before I talk about the series as a whole. I think the gender swap thing, as I said in the group chat, to me speaks to. I'll give a little bit of grace first. To be fair, as much as we like the designs of Cyrex and Sector and whatever the case may be, they haven't been given the most backstory in the Mortal Kombat universe, right? Like, it's not like I'm like, no, not Cyrex, not this in-depth ninja with all this back lore. And like, to be fair, like they've always kind of been the sideline characters in the Lin Kuei compared to everybody else in the Lin Kuei, right? So we're not losing like decades of interesting lore by making this character a woman now. I think my issue kind of goes back to what I said in the group chat of like, what are we hoping to accomplish with this, right? How does making this woman Cyrax any different from when you guys made Chameleon? How is it any different from what you did and didn't do with Frost? You have these interesting concepts of like, here is this woman version of this character. Okay, Like I said in the group chat, y'all know me. I'm the one who will purposely pick the woman protagonist if I have the option in an action adventure game. I just think it's always interesting seeing a quote unquote weaker character take on typically stronger characters. I find that, it's always something that's always like caught my eye when it comes to action style games. It's like seeing how they use their weakness into a strength, right? So I'm like, I'm down for that whole regards of like, yeah, make a woman character. I don't care. I just, when that happens, I'm just like, what's the bigger goal here other than just saying like, yeah, we're just making them a woman now, right? I'm like, because where's Chameleon now? She's a cameo character who does what? Mimic other woman characters, right? We've had this whole entire time of years and years and years to bring back this character to do what? Make her a sideline character as you reintroduce Reptile the male, right? So for me, it's just like, okay, I'm not against it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have more women characters, but what are we looking to do with this? Are we going to do something significant? Is this character, like you said, what is the long game of this character? We had this whole thing in story mode where we showed a woman version of Johnny Cage. She's in a cutscene in story mode. She's a cameo in the game, and nobody cares. Because like you said in the chat, just give us Cassie Cage. We liked Cassie. It was fine. She was the successor to the Johnny Cage lineage and the Johnny Cage persona that we wanted. A little mixture of Sonya where she could be serious where she needed to, but had like the campiness over the top of Johnny Cage. And we like that character. Like you said in the chat, Jackie Briggs, a successor to Jax. A faster version, still uses the mechanical upgrades in a more like modern day way, just, more than just cybernetic arms. She uses cybernetic enhancements while still being mostly human. We like Jackie. Jackie was great. Right. So I'm like, we have these characters that have been natural evolutions, quote unquote, gender swapped and all that. Like, man, like these successor characters seem to be really dope. I hope they do really cool things with them. But instead, it's just like, here is Cyrax, because Cyrax is just a name and anyone could be Cyrax, right? Or how we're about to talk about Suicide Squad, where it's like Mrs. Freeze. It's like, fam, why is the precedent for these established characters is let's just gender swap them? Like, how is that the thing that like, this is how we breathe new life into this character? You know what I'm saying? Like, if Cyrax is just a name and not, specific to that person, just make another Cyrax, right? Like, why can't we have male and woman Cyrax, right? I'm like, the Lin Kuei is a clan where I'm like, obviously it's made of multiple talented ninjas, right? It's like, it's not just a chosen three, right? You can make other ninjas that kind of rise in prominence, especially in a rebooted universe. Just introduce other interesting Lin Kuei. Introduce all the women Lin Kuei that you want to that have other elemental based powers.
Yeah, because apparently there was another one. His name was Hydro, where he was more like a rain-ish type of character. Like he used water and lightning. Yeah, so like there's other ways to do it. Like even like the whole Mrs. Freeze, I didn't like that one particular because it's like bro, you have Killer Frost right there.
Yeah.
But then I remember, oh yeah, this is a game about guns.
Make a woman Captain Cold.
And skins. I was like, so like, oh yeah, like, oh yeah, or
make
like,
a woman
yes,
Captain Cold.
Yeah, or just give us Captain Cold or whatever like that, because that's a Flash enemy. But it's just like, even with the Suicide Squad, it's like once again, bro, like first of all, you're fighting in Metropolis, but you're just giving us all these Batman background villains when you have a rogues gallery to choose from. It's like, bro, and yes, if this is the season of Ice, like, bro, there's other Ice characters you could have chose.
And I think that's, again, like I said, like I think that's where my issue is of like, I just don't. And again, right, we're doing this before the character's even been officially released. For all I know, I'll be eating my words, right, in 3 months, 4 months. The woman Cyrax would be the best version of Cyrax we've ever seen in our lives. I'm like, man, they did it. But it just, given, like you said in the beginning of the pod, right, the history of why they go these choices, it doesn't seem to be from like, I'm inspired, right? Like, I think that was the thing of, again, to your great point during the chat of like successors of like, this is why characters like Miles Morales works, or even Spider-Gwen works, because they take the established aspect of the character, have them kind of do their own thing while keeping the principal concept the same, without being like, here is the replacement of this known character, right? You're not like, here is Peter Ann Parker, the woman, like the Spider-Man we always needed. So like, here, Peter Parker can still do his thing. Spider-Gwen can still do her thing. Miles can still do his thing. and we're doing these characters with their own storylines that aren't, they just don't come across like we're just pandering at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just the worry that I'm seeing with a Mrs. Freeze or even a possible woman Cyrax, I'm like, I think potentially we're doing this just because it's in this like, well, we got to be PC about this, right? We got to make sure everybody feels included. It's like, okay, do that with a new character, right? Like just do that with a new character, and not for nothing, right? We see that Mortal Kombat is not necessarily the best when it comes to including characters just because, right? I'm like, we haven't seen Kung Jin since MKX, and he was supposed to be the golden child for a certain community and never returned, right? So I'm like, what was this for? If you weren't
Well,
gonna go full, like,
well, he returned in the cameo and just
and got murdered.
got
Yeah,
killed.
yeah, right. So I'm like, again, nothing wrong. Like, again, if you're gonna do it, that's fine. This is a new character. It's not like you're like, oh, okay, we decided that Kung Lao has now switched teams. Like, okay, you given this character that has his own lore to be established. I don't care what his like preferences are and what he does, but just expand on it if you're gonna go that way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, we're gonna abandon it. It's like, then why did you do it? Why even bother?
Why even
You're
bother?
not even gonna do it, like do anything with it. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm like, I guess it remains to be seen, but I in the history of gaming that I've seen in my lifetime, I've never seen gender swap for gender swap's sake work. Right? You don't see women all around the world now running to buy Mortal Kombat now that there's a woman Cyrax who looks like Master Raven with dreads and is pulling out hearts through their chest. Like, they're like, oh, finally, I see me in these games. I see me.
To go back to Master Raven, what they did with Master Raven for Tekken 7, it was like it's a new character. It's
Mm-hmm.
a new character. Yeah, they reneged the next installment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like it's an entirely new character with lore aspects connected to her. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. That's how you do it. Like you said, like, all right, so if there's space for a new character, let's introduce a new character.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
What, what,
not
what's, what is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. You're not locked into having to introduce a new version of a established name, right? Like the I feel like the overall naming IP is bigger than just the character, right? Like, again, like I said in the chat, I'm like, I find Frost potentially just as interesting as Sub-Zero. Unfortunately, they didn't do as much with her as I would have liked. But I'm like, I like this kind of grayish aspect of a Lin Kuei where like she's not quite Sector's mindset, but she's not quite Sub-Zero's mindset either. So I'm like, what can she do that makes her stand out as another cryomancer who has ninja abilities? But then you kind of turn her into an ice sector, and it's just like, well, this is not interesting, and I don't care anymore. Like I'm not. I've lost all interest because you didn't do enough with the character, not because she's a woman who happens to have similar powers. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we kind of did cover the Mrs. Freeze thing, but was there anything you wanted to add to that in terms of that character
I
coming?
think they just need to pull the plug on that game.
Well, they have announced that they are like it's not getting it's still getting its one full year that they've promised of content, but they haven't greenlit like year 2 or anything like that. Like we're getting everything that
Yeah,
was initially promised, but
yeah, because like, bro, yeah, that game was just that was a lot, bro. Like that is a heavy financial loss that WB just gonna have to eat that, bro.
yeah, that didn't need to happen, which is also the weird part. It's like this game did not have to go down like this.
Yeah,
Like,
like from Marvel Avengers to that, I was like, bro, that was just hard. Like, actually, no, from Marvel Avengers to Gotham Knights to
yes,
that, it's like, bro, that's two major hits on y'all end. Like, it's like,
with
bro,
your biggest properties at that. Like it ain't like you was just like, oh, we decided to make a Martian Manhunter game and it just didn't work out. I was like, bro, you use the Justice League and Batman and it still didn't work. It still didn't work.
and from Gotham Knights, I could have said, like, bro, you should have just made a Ninja Turtles game. It's like we keep using the Ninja Turtle archetypes for these 4-player based character games, and it's just like, bro, it's right there. Oh no, but like you have different amount of costumes, and that's the issue, and that's where I think that's where the publisher is taking over.
Mm-hmm.
WB. It's just, bro, all this stuff about cosmetics and stuff, it's too much, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's too much.
Because even in
Like
this design, you can see it's like we just think of all the Mrs. Freeze Halloween costumes. It's like, fam, what? Like,
her hair, her fur coat, her glasses.
think of the
Oh,
cosplay, man. Think of the cosplay.
the variety of guns. You want Captain Cole's gun on a Mister Freeze template, like, and then look, bro, look at the weapons.
Yeah,
It's like, bro, come on, like that's too
yeah.
much. That's too much. That's too
Oh, the
much.
Captain Cole Infamy set, the Green Lantern and Superman Brainiac fight set, the Icicle Notorious. It's like, what? But to your point, Tim, that you said earlier, I think their plan with Suicide Squad seems to be what characters can we introduce that have elemental things for guns, right? Joker, acid poison base. Mrs. Freeze, ice base. Like it's all like what can we do elemental wise as a DLC character?
So you already know what the next element is.
Fire,
Electricity or
electric. You
fire.
think so?
Electricity or fire, bro.
I mean, that's potentially good. We could possibly get Livewire as a DLC character then.
Nope, no guns. Remember, she shoots.
Oh, well. So when Jory was putting us on to My Adventures with Superman, when Livewire is initially introduced, she uses like an electric powered gun before she gets her powers,
Okay.
and that's how she has her accident. Like the gun like blows up on her or whatever, and that's how she gets overcharged with electricity. But she uses like an electric fueled gun against Superman.
Well, I mean, you already know. Yeah, those the next two elements, bro.
They should just go for broke and just like, since it's all gun based, and just introduce Condiment King, bro. Like just introduce ketchup and mustard.
Bro, it's
Just go for broke, right? Just like, like the game is crashing anyway. Condiment King coming soon.
bro.
Hide your sauces.
It's horrible, man. It's horrible. Like this is really horrible.
Yeah, it's like how do you fumble the golden goose, bro? Like with certain IPs, like how do you manage to take this thing that should be a layup and just like, I'm gonna airball this? Like, why not? The last topic that we had for the night, taking it back to anime for a little bit. Speaking
Okay.
of Bleach, speaking of Anime Expo and the revitalization of IPs, we spoke on it briefly earlier. Bleach Thousand Year Blood War arc finally got a part 3 trailer. Now we know for a fact that the Thousand Year Blood War arc is going to have 4 parts to it. So we know that this is the October installment, and there's going to be a final iteration of the arc sometime within 2025 that kind of caps off everything. Now, with the trailer dropping, Tim, what were your thoughts on what was shown, what we saw? Like, are you excited for the return of it? Like, how have you felt about their approach to the Thousand Year Blood War arc thus far?
Cinema. Cinema, bro. Like I was really waiting. Like this arc had so many pinnacle moments
Mm-hmm.
that it was just like, bro, what more can you really do? And I
Mm-hmm.
and I and I like the villain choice, bro. Quincy's. It's
Yeah.
Quincy's. Like
Mm-hmm.
we've always been hearing about this beef between Soul Reapers and Quincy's, and now you're seeing it in the most grittiest way possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, because it really made me question, like, it also makes you question your loyalties. Like, for example, when you found out Uryu joined them, it's like, okay, so Uryu, where does his dad stand about this?
Mm-hmm.
Because you remember his dad was this most hardcore person since the beginning.
He never rocked with the Soul Society, like ever.
But then, you also see that he's friends with Ichigo's dad. So it's like, well, you obviously have a halfway point, but what
Mm-hmm.
is that? And it's beautiful, man. It really is. Like from the designs to the expansion on people's bankais. Like I felt like this arc was like it was really needed because especially when some of the visors rejoined the Soul Society, you wanted to see like, all right, well, bro, we didn't really get to see the full extent of your moves against Aizen because he kind of just took you all
He
out.
one-shotted everybody. Yeah.
So now it's like, all right, now is the time we really could see what the majority of all of these captains really could do. And
Mhm.
even like, give a couple of them some power ups, bro. Like when you found out like, Hitsuga, like, oh yeah, that's not my final form.
Which we know was a bit of a cop out of like,
It
that's
was.
always
It
been like
was.
the one like major critique of Bleach of like it's always been like this is in my final form because you showed your peak Bankai 600 chapters ago and now the enemy's even stronger. So it's like, oh, it could go even further. Like for Mayori, it made sense because he's a scientist. So him experimenting on his sword, I'm like, yeah, it would make sense that his Bankai will look different every time because he's literally like testing it with chemicals.
Or like look at like Renji for example. Renji's Bankai was because his particular Zanbakuto didn't really have full
Didn't
respect.
didn't acknowledge
So
him as a warrior. Yeah.
or then Yumichika or like cause Yumichika like kind of mocks his sword, so he calls it by a different name.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like it's interesting elements. It's interesting elements to it and it adds a certain level of depth. But so like it's like yes, like here's this soul society who you found out that they were these ruthless killers back in the day, very Old Testament black and white. The one decision that they made came to haunt them.
Which I guess like that's the thing that's always been interesting of like it kind of paints the social society with like a shade of gray, right? Because the Aizen fight was such a black and white fight of like Aizen's wrong, like right, he's incorrect in his approach to challenging the Soul King, for lack of a better term. But then you have somebody like the Quincy's where it's like they were done wrong by the Soul Society, right? Like it's not one of those things where it's like they're the bad guys, so to speak. Like you said, they're the poor decision that came back to haunt you in the worst way. And then, like you said, even the concept of like, who says that Quincy's all use arrows, right? That's just one aspect of a Quincy's power. Like they have other aspects of themselves as well. I mean,
Now, I do hope that they expand more on the Soul King because I kind of feel like the manga just overshadowed it. What was it that made Aizen go on this crazy spiritual journey
of
to
like he has to go.
overthrow
Yeah.
this figure?
Yeah.
Cause it was such a revealing part for me when the conversation that he had with Kisuke before he got sealed, he was
Mm-hmm.
like, "How can you serve that thing like a man of your intellect?"
Mm-hmm.
Because that also really showed you that Eisden all like really like in a weird rival, I'll stab you in the back kind of way. He kind of views Kisuke as his equal in
Mm-hmm.
some aspects.
Intellectually, at least.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like so, he's like, so how can you serve that?
Mm-hmm.
So, but then what is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you find out it's this thing that got multiple body parts. One captain got this, one Quincy got that. Oh, the other Quincy randomly got that. It's like, how?
He
How?
has Horcruxes for himself.
Like when did this distribution happen?
Yeah. Yeah. Who diced up his body and who decided who got what and who, yeah. And he's not capable of higher thinking, but yet he's the one that like caused, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it was such a like it was just too much mystery and I was like, bro, this thing doesn't make sense. So
Mm-hmm.
like so use this time that y'all have together to really give us some closure, bro. Give us
And
some
they
closure.
and to your point, to be fair, they've said as much. Like they've said, like, yeah, we are planning, like we've been working very closely with Tai Kubo to make sure that we flesh out the story, flesh out the things that he wanted to really share this arc that he didn't get a chance to. I mean, the perfect example was how part two ended, right? Where we saw the Bankai of one of the what are they called again? The royal guards, right? When she uses her bankai, it's like that wasn't in the manga. Like they all kind of one shotted in the manga. We are all like, bro, these are the royal guards. They're trash. We'll get them off the screen, right? She ends up using her bankai that we've never seen before because he decided to take the time to literally storyboard and flesh out how her powers work. So we are kind of getting that like overdue fleshing out that we've needed from this arc in the story for years at this point. Um,
Mhm.
is there anything that you feel was kind of over? Because we don't quite know where this is going to end. Like I do think it's where it's going to have four parts. I'm just like, bro, this is kind of close to the end of this arc. Like there's not much that takes place once Ichigo gets
I
to the
I
palace,
feel like I feel like they might go up to the part where they do defeat Aizen. I feel the fourth part is going
where
to
they
be,
defeat Yuhabak.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yubak, yeah. I feel like the end is going to be more of the climax of like after everything was said and done before the time skip where people got married and have kids and all that other stuff. Like similar to how they did with Boruto. They're going to show you some in between parts.
Well, I mean, that's a good point because there is this ongoing theory within the Bleach community that the novels, kind of like what they do with Naruto, are going to be adapted into the anime as well.
Hmm.
Because technically, the novels is where we technically saw Shinji's Bankai. Even though they used Shinji's Bankai in the Thousand Year Blood War arc, that was when it was officially revealed and what it did.
Yes.
As well as what's his name, buddy, with the Kazazinshi, the one that uses like the chain whip thing.
Mm.
His Bankai gets revealed in those novels as well. So
Yeah.
that's the theory that part four will cover that possibly.
Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, there's room for this stuff. It's just like, just do it. Just do
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
Like, even like, we got to say if it is like, all right, so Kenpachi and, the lieutenant who just disappeared is like, who is like have some weird spiritual connection is like,
Bruh.
yeah, we still need to know because,
Yeah. How is it that she's a fracture of your power from Rizan Pakto, who also has her own Shikai? Like,
yeah.
how does
Because
that work?
Because I know, like, she shares the name of Unohana when Unohana was a serial killer,
Mm-hmm.
Yachiru.
Mm.
But then my thing is like, all right, so you find out that your Bankai's name is Nozurashi, but then how does Nozurashi connect to her?
Who knows? Right? Like, who even knows, bruh? Who even knows?
Like, yeah, maybe you could explain it. Maybe she's just like similar to how Stark and what's her name, Lily Beck, Lily.
Lilybeth. Lilybeth.
Yeah, like maybe it's a similar situation like that. But then the thing about her was she was still present. She turned to
Yes.
the man's gun.
Yes. Yes. Like it was a very clear connection of like one of them decided to split their soul up to give it a consciousness so they weren't lonely, and
Yeah.
it made sense. Like it all connected. Whereas like with them, it's just like what? Like
Yeah, she
I
had
guess
like
he was
she
suppressing his
just
power,
and
but what is this?
yeah, and she just disappeared. And it's just like, okay, all right. Like he doesn't even mention her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for me, the thing I would want to have expanded upon is I do think they need to explain the man, I'm blanking on names today. The like the top four, yeah, the top four guards within the Quincy regime. Like how, like we know, like how like their power ups played out, but like for example, like the Viking one is like, bro, how is he's just unkillable? Like they literally can't kill him.
Well, remember
You
he
know?
has he's past part of the whole soul king.
Oh right, right,
Yes.
right, 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 right.
So
You're
it's
right.
just like so two Quincy's just randomly just get this power up and then one captain just got and it's just like, okay.
Mm, you're right. I completely forgot about that. That's crazy. And justice for all our black characters, right? They can't make a black villain without him turning into a creature of some sort. So can't wait to see the bird sniper brought on our screen.
Crazy, bro. Crazy, bro. It's like, bro, that fight went through so many stages, bro, and it's
Yeah,
just like you mean to tell me Izuru is the
was the
one that
one,
that,
the one that
that
got it done,
finishes
bro.
him.
The one that got it done.
Izuru the zombie, the man whose body is barely held together. But then that's Mayuri science for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The one who, I mean, he cured zombieism, bro. He literally brought
Yeah.
Hitsugai back from the dead. So anything's possible, right? Like he turns the Arankar into his personal puppets, right? Like who's to say what he can and can't do? As far as the extended Bleach universe, like we know that Tai Kubo did the one shot right of Burn the Witch, which basically kind of highlighted like the international version of the Soul Society and how that kind of operates. And currently, he's working, or he will be once all this wraps up, will be resuming work on the Hell arc of Bleach.
Hmm.
Do you feel like I have two questions actually? Do you feel like Bleach is a story that still has more to tell? One.
Um, I feel like they're gonna give it the Boruto treatment. where they're not going to make it as long as, like, let's just say Naruto or Shippuden,
Hmm.
but they're just going to give it enough to give it, like, I would say a second climax. I would say
Okay. Okay.
a
Because I
second
mean,
climax.
yeah, because I think like him going through the trouble of literally giving a character design to every single former captain of the 13, like, bro, this was not done for nothing. Like, I would not be surprised if they show up in the Hell arc as full on villains. Like, you did not go through all this trouble to make, and he's already confirmed that he's like, yeah, Yamamoto, Unohana, they're in hell. Like, they're in hell. As well as Ukitake, the one that was holding a piece of the Soul King. Like, he's like, these guys are in hell. So I'm like, are they in hell as Hell's guardsmen? Are they serving a greater evil? Like, like there's something more here for sure. Um, and then my second question was, do you feel like, because my thought is, with all these unfortunate passing of all like these like legendary series developers within the past couple of years, right? Like we've had Toriyama, who made Dragon Ball, pass away. Kazuki Takahashi, who made Yu-Gi-Oh, pass away. Uh, um, uh, Jory, forgive me for forgetting his name, the guy that did Berserk, who passed away, right? So we have all these authors of these legendary manga series who are passing on. Do you feel like that could potentially be leading to why Kishimoto's getting so involved in Naruto again, or why Taikubo's getting involved in Bleach again? Like, do you think they're doing that to like leave more of a legacy to their creations? Is there something deeper there? Is it shallow? Is it just for more money? Like, what do you think is kind of like spurring this interest in these
Um,
established IPs?
I feel like they want to give these things a final send off instead
Mm-hmm.
of, because it's not to say that they don't have faith in their team. I just feel like they want it to be done right. Or maybe they just found some new inspiration.
Mm.
Maybe they found some new inspiration and want to just give it like a real, true final send off, man. Because I get it, man. Like, I do feel like when it comes to newer set of people or like a newer team, let them create something of their own. Um, I do feel like spiritual successors are good things to have, but
Mm-hmm.
you just gotta give people the space to do it.
Yeah,
You
because
gotta, yeah, you gotta give
yeah,
people the space to do it.
because a part of me is like, I think, creators want to create, right? I think like when someone is feeling inspired, right? I think I've seen multiple instances in which, creators will say like, yeah, I didn't really flesh out certain things in the story that I would have liked to. I would have liked to explore this, would like to explore that. Like, you're a creator, I'm a creator. We can definitely relate to the hindsight of like, if I could tweak this about something I put out, I would do A, B, and C. Right. And I think with them kind of get getting the luxury to not have to go through that weekly grind anymore and really have time to like flesh out their ideas. I think it's good to a degree that they're doing things the way they want to do. I mean, we do see both sides of that, right? Like we've spoken at length about how Baruto's kind of go left at certain routes. We've seen that Dragon Ball is kind of like rehash certain ideas to like diminishing results. So like there is like a balance to it, but there is an aspect of like, I do want to let creators create. There is also another part of me, like just like my cynical brain of like, bro, to be honest, Shonen Jump is also kind of in a weird space again, right? Where it's like, again, we're reaching this point again where it's like, outside of One Piece, My Hero Academia is coming to an end, right? It's pretty much over. It's only a couple more chapters left until it's done. Demon Slayer, I mean, they're about to make $1 billion each movie with those last 3 movies that they announced. But Demon Slayer is over. There's no new chapters. There's no spinoff. Demon Slayer is done. And the Jujutsu Kaisen, for as popular as it is, I'm not gonna hold you. Like, I don't know. Like, I know you're still not caught up on like the manga and the anime, but it's like, bro, they've been doing this one fight for about 40 chapters now. Like, I'm not joking. They've been
Ooh.
fighting the same villain for at least the past 6 months. So it kind of makes you think like, is there more to this story after they beat this guy, or
I
are we
feel like
wrapping up, or
I
what's
feel like
happening
that
here?
I feel like there's a lot of anime burnout going on.
Mm,
And I just feel like, actually, I would say across media,
mm,
we're seeing it in movies, we're seeing it in, shows. There's a level of burnout that is really coming, man, due to the demand of things. And I just kind of feel like maybe, bro, maybe the world just really needs a break. Maybe the
Like
world just
no pressing out new IPs.
like, yeah, like maybe it's just people just need really need some time to really just like, because it always say like we're always so addicted to the next thing.
Yeah,
Maybe we
dopamine
really
hits.
need some time to sit with ourselves and allow some form of inspiration to come to us.
Mm. Well,
Heal,
well,
heal, spend some time with our families, or it's just that this is like an addiction. Like you just have to create. Like even the other day I felt that about myself in terms of the documentaries that I make, the episodes that I make. It's like I just feel that itch, like what, I'm not doing nothing, like what am I doing, I'm wasting myself away. But
mm.
then sometimes, bro, I realize when I sit with myself to do nothing, some of the most best ideas come to me.
Hmm. Yeah, well, you're not pushing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I realized, yeah, I'm not creating much now because you know what, Tim? I said to myself, like, Tim, you've been saying, like, you want to expand your equipment. Use this time to expand your equipment.
Mm.
If you want to write more in-depth stories, now is the time to do more research and write, more in-depth scripts. All right, if you're not doing anything right now, that means that's more months for you to save up.
Fair enough.
So like, and I do feel like yes, we need those recharge points, or I would say planning points, because you
Hmm.
could do both. You're able to rest when you want, but then you'll also be able to invest in like new ideas without that pressure of a deadline. Because we've said it many times. Most like games that had a movie attachment, they were horrible because you were trying to match this particular timeline that doesn't make sense.
Right. Right. You've limited yourself in terms of
Yeah.
creativity. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Mm.
So like there's many factors that come into play, man. But I do feel like there is a level of burnout in terms of inspiration. Yeah, and just releasing because remember, like I said, there's multiple parties you gotta cover, man. Like, I gotta give it up to One Piece. Like I keep forgetting it. Netflix updates every Saturday with a new episode, and I'm just like, well, bro, y'all do realize y'all are this close to where the manga is, bro.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I was like, how are y'all doing this?
I don't know. I don't know. It's funny because that used to be a valid critique of One Piece for the longest time. Of like they used to like drag their feet to like give the manga some space, and it's like, bro, now y'all are less than like half an arc behind of this series, and every episode to its own degree has been very interesting. Like we've been sharing more clips than ever in the chat of like One Piece. Like, bro, did you see this? This look, like it's an art form to it for sure. So but I mean, to your point about like the burnout, like, one of the things I shared in the chat this morning, and we'll start to wrap up, but I think there is that risk of like, I think One Piece, even in itself, is starting to get to the road of diminishing returns of like, fam, how many more times can they help a member of royalty who's been stripped from their power reclaim their kingdom? How many more times can an ally introduced in the arc sacrifice themselves so the Straw Hats can get away? How many more times, like, can we see this? Like, granted, the world building of One Piece is like second to none. Let's not like, let's call it for what it is. But I'm like, if you look at the sum of the formula, it's like, bro, we've seen this literally from this series at least 3 times, almost every single aspect where it's like, bro, One Piece kind of gotta wrap it up. Kind of gotta
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and I'm glad that they calling this the final saga because it's like yeah, bro. Like, but then you realize with One Piece, the final saga could last you like damn near 5 years
yeah, we both might be 40 by the time One Piece is actually like done. I don't mean like turning 40, like I mean like in our 40s.
in our 40s.
Yeah, like,
It's like it's like yeah, bro. Like so, I mean, we gotta because just like how we said the last part, bro. We already know some new power ups are coming.
mm-hmm.
So how is that going to work out and things of that nature? So yeah, man, it's a lot to really consider, man. It really is. And I just hope that whatever we go through, we just honor the humanity aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I think like we're in such a weird space of um this is such a creative free for all right now, right? Like I think like um how can I put this? It's like to your point about creating, it's like now more than ever there's been more runways and more doors open to kind of do whatever you want creatively, right? Like I've seen people who have literally tens of thousands of followers who just talk about Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right? I'm like, and for us growing up, like that would have been like, what do you want to do? What? Like you want to start a YouTube about Yu-Gi-Oh? Are you crazy? You better go to the doctorate school, nursing school, whatever the case may be, right? And it's just like there is this need for like you said, content to come out constantly. Where like to your point about creating, I'm like, man, I want to do, like I want to see this podcast really take off and really like see our potential be realized. I should go stream after this. Actually, like I've been trying to like, do the Resident Evil stream. My room is 90% set up. Why am I not doing it? And it's like to your point, it's like, because I'm tired. Like I'm also tired. Like I also want to sit on the couch sometimes with my wife and watch whatever ridiculous reality TV show she has on. Like just do some normal stuff. And not have to think of like how can I get to the next level in terms of my output ability. All right. So I think we are kind of nearing a place where like even the world as a whole is feeling it. Whether or not they want to admit to it is something different. But I think we are feeling it of like, bruh, like it's time for a pause button. Like I'm not saying like another COVID level shutdown and sit down, but like
Honestly, bro. Honestly, half and half. That probably might what the world might need, bro.
Yeah, because the it was cool for when it was cool, right? And I will really wrap us up. Like I think the initial month, maybe 2 months of COVID lockdown, where everybody had to literally stop and take a break, was cool because you really had to stop and reconnect. When it started getting to the 4th, 5th, 6th month, that's when people started losing their minds and all these things that we really don't need to get into. But it's just like, I think there is something to be said, especially about the American working system of like, bro, this whole thing of like consume, create, consume, like, it's just like, 3, 4, 5 side hustles. Like we're feeling the effects of like shows that we love are, not as popping, right? Where it's like, oh, if Game of Thrones doesn't do 6 million viewers a week, is it falling off? It's like, fam, like what? Like people have lives. People want to go eat. People want to go like, we don't necessarily want to go watch CGI dragons in 2024. Like it's just that simple. It doesn't mean that the show's bad, right? But there's this such thing of like, we got to have the water cooler conversation, then watch the YouTube breakdown, then hit the Reddit for what does this mean when she said this. And it's just like, we're in this, like you said, this constant consumption of like, your brain is just going and you're never really at peace. Mm-hmm. Like I feel restless now when I pick up a book. It comes like, what could I be doing? Why am I turning pages and resting? Like I should be writing my own book. Like it's just, we're in this like weird, I got to do more cycle. So I mean, not quite the place I expected to take it when I was like, why do you think they're still making more content? But I think it should be noted that like, yeah, that could also be a part of it. Like just the need to like, why am I not doing more with this property is something that is probably going to be explored and come up a lot more, and down the road.
It's Burnout, man. It's Burnout. It's the signs. The signs are there. Signs.
Okay. All right. Well, not quite the place I expected to end the pod, but it
get
happens.
It get deep like that sometimes, bro. It really does. Yeah. We are people. We are people. Like
yeah. The entertainment aspect is not just ha 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 keys. You got to have the real conversation for sure. So yeah, I think to sum it all up, I hope that during this lull of summer gaming and lull of summer anime and content, I hope that the fall brings us a lot of like quality stuff, right? Where it's not just like a rush to react and the rush to put out first and rush to like, again, that content never ending cycle, right? And throughout that, we will be here, the Press Start Select podcast. So once again, thank you guys all if you watch the video, fantastic. If you listen to us on Spotify or any of those other streaming platforms, also fantastic. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment. If you are listening audio, rate us 5 stars so we can get more names out there, ourselves out there more. Once again, I am Antonius DaGamer, Mykale Smith. We are the Press Start Select podcast. Shout out to Super SSS Rank, and we will see y'all next time.
Take care.